Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto married Rias Gremory? Love, conviction, and destiny with Akeno Himehime, Asia Argento, Koneko Tuju, Xenovia Quarta, Irina Shido and the Shadow of Riser Phenex Part 1. A ninja from another world, a devil princess bound by destiny, and a marriage that will shake the supernatural realm. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Chapter 1. Staring at Jiraiya's makeshift grave. Fat heavy tears slid down Naruto's cheeks, he felt his lips quiver and took a shaky breath. Though he had learned of his master's death a while ago, learning that Nagato could bring the dead back to life raised his hopes that he could be with his father figure again. A hope that was promptly shattered as he learned that he could only revive those he had recently killed in the invasion. He took another deep breath, trying to force himself to talk through the lump in his throat. It took a few seconds but eventually the words came out quietly. Jiraiya-sensei, I promise that I will become stronger, and that I will bring peace to the world. The Dimensional Gap. Great Red. The Dragon of Dragons, the true Red Dragon Emperor, the Dragon God, the Apocalypse Dragon, the strongest existence. An entity with enormous and unrivaled power, he drew his unparalleled strength from the dreams of the pure of heart. One dream in particular caught his attention as he flew across the dimensional gap. World Peace EHH. He's strong for a human too, he's got a good head on his shoulders with wanting to bring peace, a bit like myself when I was but a hatchling. I like this kid, let's see him bring peace here in this dimension. Great Red muttered as he descended to the floor. His wings flapped heavily as he neared and reached the ground, huge gusts of winds forming and rippling across the deadly oppressive atmosphere. I hope you succeed in bringing peace to this dimension. Good luck, child of prophecy. The strongest existence grinned as he materialized a portal right underneath the human. Chuckling at the shell-shocked look that formed on the shinobi's visage as he went through the portal that sent him into an entirely different world. Kuo Town, world of DXD. Ah! Naruto screamed as he fell from the sky, very much startled from the sudden and completely unexpected change in scenery. Panic engulfed him as he felt the embrace of gravity pull his speeding body to land. On a normal day he might have enjoyed the feeling of the wind rushing past him as he plummeted down, of his form piercing the clouds the way a sword pierced a body. But such an experience could not be appreciated when he had no idea if he'd even survive. So exhausted he was that he couldn't even form a single clone to grab Senjutsu chakra. Looking down below, the shinobi spotted a large mass of water right underneath and felt relief at the sight. Rotating and angling his body in a way so he'd be in a diving position, Naruto didn't have to wait long before he became one with the water. Splash! The impact of his body landing from sky high to the lake caused a large tidal wave to form and splash everywhere, the sound of the impact being heard by all the residents of Kuo. Within a minute the blonde Jinchuriki poked his head from the water. His body soon followed and Naruto sighed in annoyance as he surveyed his surroundings and thought of his new predicament. What did I do to deserve this? He felt like a fictional character being manipulated by a vexing but very handsome author. The shinobi walked out of the lake and into the forest. The aftereffects of his battle with pain rushed through him and caused him to stumble and stagger as he trudged through the trees, the strength in his body rapidly fading away as his vision dimmed and his legs shook with each step made. Naruto prided himself on willpower, but physically depleted and mentally drained as he was, it didn't take long before he found himself falling face first to the floor. The last thing he'd register was seeing worried violet eyes widen before a sense of determination overcame them. Naruto's mindscape. The hell happened to me? Groaning as he got up, Naruto instantly knew where he was. He'd been here more times than he would have liked. So close, I was so close. The deep demonic voice of the Nine-Tails bellowed across the entire mindscape, the fury in its voice palpable even to the densest of humans. Had the fourth Hokage not intervened, I would not be locked in here, but here I am, you got lucky brat. Kyuubi growled darkly as he glared hatefully at his container. Did you call me here just to waste my time, Cube? Naruto glared right back, ocean blue eyes locking onto bleeding red. I'd rather die than spend unnecessary time with you, brat. No, I called you to warn you to be careful. We're not in the elemental nation, hell we are not even in the same dimension. That portal that formed has displaced us here, far away from your stupid village. What? How do we go back? Shock laced the young shinobi's voice, quite flabbergasted from this announcement. I don't know and I don't care, the elemental nation can rot in hell for all I care, I only warned you because if you die, I die. So for both our sakes, be very cautious and don't be your usual idiotic self. You're being very helpful for someone who tried to kill me just a few hours ago." Naruto glared at the Kyuubi, still furious with the Biju, and said, Biju scoffing and returning the glare. "You try being sealed inside a human for God knows how many years, then you can talk to me about whether you understand why I want to escape this blasted seal. Don't try to act as though you were innocent, you were sealed inside of me because you tried to destroy Konohagakure. Actions that weren't under my control. On that night I was controlled by an Uchiha. He's that Akatsuki member, the one with the orange mask. That attack from 16 years ago was caused by him. And before you say anything, know that before the first Hokage had me sealed inside his wife, I had no desire to mingle or crush you insects. I left you all alone and I still end up being targeted by you insects. It's like that brat you just fought mentioned, about how your village isn't as peaceful as you think it is. Enough, I'm leaving." He closed his eyes and willed himself to disappear. Oh, my head. Naruto's mind slowly began to kick back into gear as consciousness started to return back to his senses. His facial muscles twitched as he started to remember what exactly happened that caused him to be so fatigued. The fight with Pain, Hinata dying, his father and Kyuubi, the conversation between him and Nagato, falling from the sky, learning that he's in a different dimension. Naruto bolted upright, unintentionally slamming his forehead with a crimson-haired girl. Immediately both he and the girl reeled back in pain, tears forming in both their eyes from the painful impact reverberating in their skull. "Watch it, you idiot. Who are you calling an idiot, you perverted weirdo?" Rias glared at the idiotic blonde. Who the hell suddenly sprang up like that after being unconscious for a whole day? She just wanted to look at him. She hadn't had the chance to inspect the supposed cutie pie that her queen and best friend was gushing about for the past 8 hours. Had she known the crazy blonde would get up like that, she would have very much kept her distance. "Why were you looming over me?" Naruto questioned, head still throbbing with pain while trying to wipe the tears from the edge of his eyes, getting off the now vacant bed and standing at his feet. "I was checking to see if you were okay. My friend Akeno found and healed you. You were in really bad shape," the young woman remarked, concern bleeding into her voice now as she looked at the man who made the last 24 hours a roller coaster of questions. Rias could feel her cheeks heating up as she eyed the young man's form. He was tall, standing around at 6 feet 1 if she had to guess, with sun-kissed skin and golden blonde hair that stood out in every direction, practically tempting her to try tame the unruly mop. Blessed with intense oceanic blue eyes that emerged from underneath strands of gold that covered his forehead, she looked down to stop herself from drowning in his eyes and noted 3 curious lines on either side of his small cute nose and thin lips, all those beautiful features amplified by a strong masculine jaw. Looking at his physique, Rias couldn't resist biting her lips as she admired Naruto's majestic and muscular physique, from his broad wide shoulders narrowing into a thin waist, large defined arms on either side of a full and vast chest, and those abs, those abs. Rias had to suppress a delighted sigh as she gazed at what was most assuredly the most handsome man she had ever seen in her life. As a devil of greed, Rias had an immense and irresistible urge to control and rule over anything and anyone that caught her attention, and this beautiful human had most certainly caught hers. "You are mine," Rias lustfully thought as she drank in the sight of the half-blonde with her alluringly mesmerizing eyes. Yup, she could definitely understand why Akeno was obsessing over this human. The intense physical attraction Rias felt for the blonde shinobi was very mutual. Naruto was starstruck by the gorgeous seductress he laid eyes on, a full-blown blush on his cheeks as he gazed at the goddess many leagues above every other woman he had ever met in beauty. The first thing to have caught his eyes was her hair, a thick curtain of rich and vibrant red spilling down to her meaty upper thighs. Ivory skin bringing out the turquoise eyes hidden underneath a messy fringe of crimson silk ending just above her cute button nose. High cheekbones helped complement a razor-sharp jawline, all that drew attention to her bewitchingly pouty lips that he felt compelled to kiss. The crimson-haired beauty possessed a very voluptuous body with huge gravity-defying and a small waist flaring out to very wide and sinfully thick hips. He could definitely see Jiraiya-sensei getting knocked unconscious if he glanced at this woman, not that he could blame his master considering the woman's otherworldly beauty. "Oh, thank you, I appreciate it," Naruto murmured shyly. The blush on his face faded away as he remembered what exactly propelled him up earlier. Where am I? Who are you? My name is Rias Gremory, and you're in my club here in Kuo Academy, Rias answered, utterly intrigued and curious about the young man. Thank you again for taking me in and healing me. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. A small grateful smile adorned his face as he gazed at the now identified woman. Rias nodded and smiled. Well, Naruto-kun, I believe we both have questions for each other, so. She strutted her way to the blonde, taking care to cross her feet directly in front of each other, hips flexing so as to enrapture the man that caused her to feel lightheaded when she gazed at him. A smug smirk manifested in her face as she caught the blonde admiring her enticing features. A giggle escaped her as Naruto grew embarrassed when he realized he got caught staring, the blush to end all blushes erupting on his face and making him all the more cuter for the thirsty devil. Coming to a stop before the young shinobi, she handed him a black shirt from out of nowhere, the blonde saying a silent thank you as he quickly dressed himself, much to Rias's disappointment. Stepping even closer into his personal space, the outrageously bold succubus wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck, slowly pulling him to her as she bent backward, their foreheads once again coming into contact, though unlike last time they felt no pain from their rather intimate union. Moving her head to his ear, she leaned her face to his, enjoying how warm it felt on the side of her visage. I want you to make yourself at home, okay? Rias purred into his ear. Naruto felt shivers go up his spine. Completely out of his element and unused to dealing with women this forward, Naruto nodded shyly, internally praying that this beautiful young woman couldn't hear his heart hammering out of his chest. Good boy, now follow me. With that, Rias let go of the blonde, pouting on the inside that she couldn't hold onto him longer. Grabbing his hand, Rias turned around and sashayed her way back to the main club room, Naruto getting dragged around and desperately trying to study the architecture of the ceiling. Anything to help avoid looking down or its death via blood loss. Entering the main room, Naruto was greeted to the sight of a skinny platinum blonde-haired man with handsome yet feminine features. A mole on the side of his nose helped bring attention to his gray-colored orbs. He seemed perfectly at ease laying his back on the wall. The next person to have caught his attention was a young petite girl with shoulder-length white hair, a cat hair clip that pulled back her bangs to reveal hazel cat-like eyes, her height reaching up to the lower side of his chest, effectively marking her as the shortest one he met here so far. Turning his gaze from his fellow blonde and the young girl who reminded him of a cat, Naruto noticed an average-looking brown-haired boy with the weirdest hairstyle he'd ever seen. He possessed no real defining or noticeable features excluding the hair. It was actually pretty scary how average he seemed. The boy seemed to dislike him. If the expression of jealousy was anything to go by, was he actually jealous? And from what? Standing next to the average and annoying weirdo was a girl who looked younger than Rias but older than the white-haired girl from earlier. Naruto noted golden blonde hair much like his, but that's where the similarities ended. Whereas he had blue eyes, her eyes were green, his skin was tanned and hers was fair. She looked so meek that Naruto had to wonder if Orochimaru, a man so despicable, would even have the heart to hurt this poor thing. Said poor thing seemed to whimper when he eyed her, something that caused the average boy to growl. Shifting his eyes to the final occupant of the group, Naruto almost blushed again as he gazed at yet another goddess-like woman, one who was definitely in the same league as Rias. The gorgeous woman possessed long, straight silky tresses of blackish-purple hair tied into a ponytail that reached all the way down to her mid-thighs. The stray strands of glossy black locks not caught by her orange ribbon, framed her angelic yet oddly enough sultry face. A weird but also perfectly pleasing combination that did wonders to Naruto's heart as he admired the women before him. Looking down, Naruto barely managed to suppress a nosebleed as he caught sight of her enormous tits, no doubt at least a match for Tsunade. Naruto could only imagine how large it would be after a couple of years. Glancing down even further, Naruto saw a thin waist that then exploded to wide and very womanly hips. The shinobi had no doubt in mind that this sensual bombshell attracted the admiration of many, many men and the ire of many, many women. Gazing back up to her face, he took notice of a demure button nose that twitched playfully above a set of full and luscious pink lips, framed by high cheekbones and a sharp jawline. Tearing his eyes away from her soft kissable lips, Naruto looked into a set of mischievous violet orbs that conveyed amusement, no doubt very aware that the blonde was giving her a once-over. Not that Akeno could blame him considering she took her time appreciating this young man's dashing and attractive features when he was unconscious. Sue her for ogling this hot hunk. Oh my, so the cutie pie has finally awoken. You foo. Hi, my name is Akeno Himahima. She greeted him, a small smile across her visage as she acquainted herself with the man she found, healed, and perved on. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I heard from Rias that you healed me, thank you very much. Naruto greeted back gratefully, having never been cared for by anyone excluding a handful of people. It made the blonde appreciate Akeno who tended to him without any motive or hidden purpose. Off to the side, Rias felt a tinge of irritation form in the pits of her stomach as she caught her queen disrobing and undressing Naruto with her eyes as they laughed and conversed. Glaring daggers at her best friend, she said and did nothing as she acknowledged that she did the exact same thing earlier right before dragging the blonde to her precious servants. Coming forward, the only knight belonging to Rias Gremory showed that he was well deserving of his title as the Prince of Kuo, as he addressed his fellow blonde with a polite smile and bow. Hello Uzumaki-san, I am Kiba Yuto, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Please, just call me Naruto, I'm not much for formalities. Naruto grinned. Kiba couldn't help but grin back, the whiskered man's attitude and friendliness being quite infectious. Only if you address me as Kiba, let me introduce you to everyone else. This gentleman is Issei Hyoto and the lovely lady next to him is Asuya Argento. The timid blonde waved at him and Naruto waved back. Looking at the now named Issei, Naruto was taken aback by the fire in his eyes. He suddenly seemed like someone with an admirable ambition to accomplish. Listen here you handsome piece of shit, don't think that just because you have the looks means you already won, you have not won. I will become the harem king and I'll have the largest harem in the world. Naruto face faulted right away, what kind of introduction was that? And that's his goal. Oh god this kid was even worse than his master. Looking at everyone's reaction, he could see that Issei's words amused Kiba and Akeno, had Asia looking disapprovingly yet hopefully with a small blush. Rias's reaction showed major embarrassment in the white-haired girl. Die you disgusting pervert. Ah, so she was that kind of girl. Moving on, this quite yet very nice lady is Koneko Tuju, she's really pleasant once you get to know her. Kiba directed Naruto's attention to the shortest and pervert-hating member of the group. The two stared at one another blankly, both locked in a silent eye contest. Everyone else watched the duo amusingly, fascinated as to how they would react to one another. You have chakra, a lot of it, said the white-haired girl, giving the blonde a wary but also curious look. On the outside she seemed fine but internally Koneko was shocked, this man's reserve was enormous. She'd never come across someone with an abundance of chakra like this guy. I do. Naruto nodded, ignoring the shocked and surprised looks of everyone around excluding Issei and Asia who seemed confused. The two once again stared at each other, expressions blank as they peered at one another. You're weird. Koneko replied blandly, causing amused chuckles to erupt from her fellow devils and another face fault from the shinobi. Rias struggled to contain her smile as she witnessed her peerage interact with the blonde. The spectacle was quite entertaining. It was also appreciated to discover that he does wield power and a lot of it from what Koneko was suggesting. A rather unexpected but very welcomed opportunity to strengthen her peerage. She didn't know the shinobi well, but she needed more pieces and she trusted her rook's judgment. Seems like she has a new member to her family. Naruto-kun, while it is surprising to hear that you have chakra, I think you should know that all of us here excluding you are devils. Rias says casually. Pardon me? Naruto asked, confused as to what devils are. In response to his question, Rias and everyone else suddenly seemed to grow wings, sleek bat-like wings emerging from their back. Rias began to explain about the history of devils, their relationship with the angels and fallen angels, the other pantheons around the world, the devil civil war that followed suit after the Great War and about the reincarnation system that the Mao Beelzebub created. All this information Naruto soaked quietly. It would have surprised many but Naruto was quite intelligent and perceptive. He could understand and grasp many meanings when others who were supposedly more intelligent and observant would not. He was simply dead last in the academy because he saw no reason to apply himself when his education was hampered and sabotaged by the adults. It was only much later that Iruka came to care for him, but even then, a single teacher versus the entire staff. He was far from stupid, but when almost all the staff were deadest on ensuring he didn't perform well, it was no wonder that he was unwilling to heed the lesson taught in class if he would work just to fail in the end because of the ignorance of people. So just to summarize, the world is composed of many different factions or pantheons. The devil faction that you all belong to is part of the biblical pantheon. There was a three-way war between angels, fallen angels and devils. It lasted for centuries and ended with no victor, but the original Satans died. Taking a deep breath, Naruto continued, the children of the Satans wanted to break the ceasefire, but there were many other devils who wished to no longer be at war, and due to these different ideologies, started a civil war that ended with the anti-Satan faction winning. Naturally, new Satans rose to rule the underworld, and one of them created a system to help repopulate devils because devils have a really low birth rate. Did I get everything right? Naruto asked calmly, locking eyes with the equally calm Rias. That is correct, Naruto-kun, although you don't seem too surprised. Rias stated, a soft smile on her breathtaking visage as she appraised the handsome blonde. Naruto smiled back, it takes a lot to really faze me. And seriously it did, recalling the events of his life, from getting stabbed in the chest by his supposedly best friend, to learning that Pain destroyed Konoha with a single move and witnessing his handiwork. Not much shocked the blonde nowadays. I appreciate you telling me about the world, Rias, but I'm assuming that there is a reason as to why you're revealing all of this. Naruto questioned, although he had a good idea of what she had in mind. I want you to join my peerage. Becoming a devil, you will find many benefits such as an elongated lifespan, night vision, increased strength and speed. You can even gain a harem like how Issei-kun aspires to achieve. You have everything to gain by joining. Rias proposed confidently, feeling self-assured about the blonde's choice. Thank you for the offer, but no. Naruto declined politely. As the little sister of the Crimson Satan, people doted on Rias, her status as heir to the House of Gremory and being the little sister of Lucifer, not mentioning her bewitchingly seductive looks, made Rias unused to any form of rejection. One could say that the only form of rejection she had ever received was at the hands of her parents, who refused to cancel her arranged marriage. As someone who was used to getting her way, she couldn't refrain herself from being shocked by the polite rejection she just received. But why? She stuttered, eyes wide as she looked at the first person to refuse her since her parents. Naruto closed his eyes as he remembered the promises he made, the dreams he planned to achieve, the vow he made in front of Jiraiya-sensei's grave. Opening his eyes, Naruto locked gazes with Rias, intense cerulean blue meeting a kind yet startled beautiful turquoise. Rias, there is a lot that I need to, that I must accomplish. Joining you would prevent or slow me down from achieving those goals. I can't join you as a devil, however. Naruto gave a small smile as he looked at her, and then at everyone else. I would love to be friends with all of you. No doubt you're a rowdy but genuine lot. At that everyone grinned, even Koneko and Asia gave a small and timid smile respectively. Rias blinked, staring at him for a moment until she broke out into a laugh, taking even her peerage members by surprise as she didn't laugh often with people she wasn't too familiar with. I hope you know that once you achieve your goals, I will have you join my peerage. Rias proclaimed, eyes twinkling in amusement and mirth as she eyed the whiskered man with surprising tenderness. How about a bet? I face you all at the same time, and if I win, you help me get settled here in Kuo since I'm not from around here. If you win, then I will join you for sure once I am done fulfilling my promises. Naruto proposed, a challenging gleam nesting in his eyes. Pride was felt by all manner of people, from the most heroic to the most cowardly. Everyone possessed pride. Naruto knew that by challenging all of them at once, their pride wouldn't allow them to back out from this bet, especially if they thought he was weak due to being human. Cutie pie, I don't think you're giving us credit where it's due. To take on all of us you'd have to be very strong. Akeno replied back sweetly, though the irritated look in her eye betrayed how she felt about the bet. It's all right to be scared, Akeno, though I do promise to take it easy on you all. Naruto responded back, perfectly aware that he succeeded in pissing everyone off. He tried not to think about what Akeno called him. He blushed enough times for today as it was. Seething on the inside, Rias clenched her knuckles as she regarded the blonde. It did not matter that he was most definitely the most handsome man she had ever laid eyes on. No one insulted her and her precious servants and got away with it. Naruto-kun, we accept your challenge. Forest of Kuo Town. 20 feet apart, the distance that separated shinobi and devils as they glared at one another. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki suddenly grinned, a sadistic and predatory grin that unnerved the devils and had them incredibly wary as they appraised the blonde. Last chance to back out, guys. You won't like the outcome of this fight, Naruto stated, very much aware that his offer would be refused. If anything, you should be careful, Naruto-kun, we are a very capable group. Rias replied while puffing her chest up, her competitive nature taking a hold of her. You've been very, very naughty, I will enjoy punishing you. Akeno chirped, a sly and teasing smile forming on her face. Naruto was immediately reminded of the Chunin exam proctor. What was her name again? Enko. Good luck, Naruto, you will need it. Kiba said confidently, a sword in his hand as he got into his stance. It's a sad day for you, Tem. Issei roared, the boosted gear ready and active on his arm. Koneko stared at the blonde warily, the only one to take the blonde most seriously in the group. Having sensed just how massive his chakra reserves were and how dense it was, Koneko knew that the fight wouldn't be as easy as her friends were expecting. Let's not waste any more time, I'm ready, Naruto declared, bringing out his hand and arching out his palm in a come-at-me gesture. Eager to make Naruto regret his words, Kiba rushed at Naruto with a burning demonic sword. Thrusting his sword towards the shinobi's stomach, the Prince of Kuo was horrified when his blade easily pierced his fellow blonde's belly. Staring at Naruto's visage, the Bishonen found himself taken aback by the smug smile on the shinobi's face. Great clone explosion, Naruto whispered, his form glowing then erupting into a small explosion, one that shocked the Gremory group as they watched Kiba's injured form flying back to them. Now would be a good time to mention that one of my abilities is being able to form copies of myself and that they can explode at will, Naruto announced from behind them, spooking the devil peerage as they immediately turned around to face him. You, Kiba moaned out in discomfort as he got up, his body and pride in pain as he stood alongside his fellow peerage members. His discomfort lessened as Asia proved her worth and healed him quickly. Kiba, Koneko, you both will attack him simultaneously while me and Akeno fire spells at him from above. Don't hold back and be ready to get away from Naruto if it's his clones who can explode. Asia, stay close to us and Issei, keep charging the boosted gear. Akeno, hold your lightning spell and get ready to merge it with my power of destruction. Rias instructed them all, as she, Akeno, Asia and Issei flew to the sky while Koneko and Kiba tensed their legs, ready to jump at the shinobi. Knowing the value in teamwork and just how true that there was strength in numbers, Naruto dashed towards Koneko and Kiba, throwing a smoke bomb between the devils. Smoke engulfed the area, masking the shinobi from the eyes of the devils above. Koneko felt an adrenaline spike as she peered around for the blonde. Unable to spot him, she relied on her Nekosho-blessed senses to find him, eyes widening marginally as she sensed him right underneath the blonde knight. Kiba, get out of there. Sadly, her warning came a little too late as Naruto's hands emerged from the ground near Kiba's feet, grabbed his ankles and pulled Kiba down until only his head peeked out from the ground. Headhunter no Jutsu, Naruto whispered. He got back up. I think that's the name, but if I'm wrong, I'd appreciate y'all telling me what it is. Get me out of here. Kiba tried to move and stir but failed to budge. The Nekomato pulled back her fist, ready to strike and shatter the ground up until she felt a presence behind her. Rotating on her heel, Koneko struck out her punch only for Naruto to sidestep, grab her arm and fling her towards Rias. The Gremory heir reeled back in shock as she saw her precious rook soaring to her from the smoke, the air knocked out from her when Koneko's hard head crashed into her stomach. Forming a big magic circle, Akeno expelled out her energy in the form of a large blast of wind that blew out the smoke, revealing Kiba still buried in the ground but no shinobi. Now knowing that the shinobi was more than capable to be able to sneak up on her, she and Asia quickly regrouped with Koneko and Rias, both of them up and out for blood. Issei meanwhile was next, the blonde Bishonen, and it took a while but he finally freed Kiba from his restrictive prison, the Bishonen and the pervert bolting to their allies in an instant. Right away all 6 devils flew up, clear away from the forest and the ground where the shinobi might pop up. I'm sorry Bushu, he was way too fast, faster than even Kiba. Koneko apologized, very aware of the frustration rolling off her king, a frustration felt by them all as they had a terrible start in this battle. It's not your fault, Koneko-chan, Naruto-kun is just a lot more capable than I had imagined. As the strategist in our group, the fault is mine, Rias consoled, in no way blaming her rook or her other pieces. Charging up her signature power of destruction but being sure not to go overboard, Rias sent her chaotic destructive power to the ground, intent on injuring the shinobi or at the very least, draw him out from his hiding spot. A large tremor spread across the clearing as her fatal, environmentally unfriendly energy devastated the area. Still no blonde, Rias began to feel nervous as she started to worry over him, anxious to know if he was all right or not. Her worries were unnecessary as Naruto poked his head from underneath the ground just further away from the blast radius. Deciding to be more confrontational, Naruto got out of the ground and quickly jumped away from a lightning spear courtesy of Akeno, creating 5 shadow clones to even the odds. Naruto and his clones leapt to the air to greet the devils, all who were ready for him this time. Synchronizing as one, Akeno and Rias combined and expelled their attacks in the form of a lethal vermilion lightning heading straight for the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and his doppelgangers. Using his clones as jumping pads to get clear from the blood-colored lightning, Naruto was then met with Koneko and Kiba, who flew at him, with the former lashing out with her fist and the latter swinging a creepily-looking demonic sword at him. In an impressive display of agility that would put even the most agile of humans in this world to shame, Naruto weaved through their attacks and struck them both, sending them flying to the ground unconscious. Creating another shadow clone who understood its purpose, Naruto was spun and catapulted by his clone very quickly to the rest of the peerage. Angling his body to the side to avoid the dragon shot courtesy of Issei, he raised both his legs and struck Issei and Akeno when they were at striking distance, the power behind his strike sending them soaring to the ground. From there Naruto grabbed Rias by her calf when she tried to fly away, and with considerable strength, threw the screaming Gremory heiress to the floor. He ignored the shivering Asia and landed softly on the floor. Naruto grinned softly at the scene he caused. "I think it's fair to say that I won, right?" "Why yes," Rias stuttered, utterly dumbfounded, dazed and in pain with the lightwork Naruto made of them. Occult Research Club. Choosing the couch which afforded the best view of the room, Naruto sat down and was surprised at how soft it was. Looking up, Naruto felt a bit weirded out seeing everyone just stare at him. It made the blonde feel partially bad for making such easy work of them, though he had honestly thought that they were stronger than what he had seen earlier. "Well, perhaps I should have held back more, something to consider for next time, if there is a next time." Era, cutie pie, you didn't tell us you were so strong," Akeno purred teasingly, delighted at how he flushed pink. "Cute, shy, and strong, huh? Most certainly her type of man." "Ignore my queen, Naruto-kun, I'll help you settle in personally. I'd be happy to help and teach you about Kuo Town and its people." Rias nodded at him, gracing the blonde with a small smile. Naruto smiled back gratefully, internally aware that he owed this young woman and Akeno a lot for taking him in and healing him. "Thank you, Rias, I really appreciate the help." "It's no problem. Oh, before I forget, I'll have you enrolled with us at Kuo Academy, that way you get to continue your education and we get to see each other more often," Rias said cheerfully, very pleased with her quick thinking. Naruto immediately reeled back, not ready and never will be at the prospect of school. Getting ready to refuse her, he opened his mouth and quickly closed it. "A good shinobi always blends in, you." "Naruto, what's your age?" Kiba questioned him, very curious and musing about the enormous power gap that existed between him and his fellow blonde. Surely it would make sense that he was at least 18 or 19 years old. "I'm 16, turning 17 soon," Naruto answered, shocking everyone and damaging their pride that someone so young laid waste to them all. "Then you'll be in second year with Kiba. I'll have you two be classed together and I'd be very happy to give you a tour of the academy." Akeno interrupted Rias, suppressing an amused smile at the annoyed look her favorite redhead sent her. "So what do you think, cutie pie? You happy to spend more time with me?" Akeno winked playfully. "I'd be happy spending more time with a friend, but I do have to ask, why do you keep calling me cutie pie?" Naruto asked, a little embarrassed and yet secretly pleased at the unique nickname. His question made her giggle as she responded back to him, "That's easy, it's because you are a cutie pie." Her words made him blush and nod shyly. It wasn't that he thought he was ugly or anything, but being known as the Jinchuriki in Konoha made any interest non-existent. His brash and obnoxious behavior didn't help much either. However, he did meet a lot of women outside the village who complimented him on his appearance. Only thing was that they were much more subtle with their feelings and actions. Dealing with Rias, who was pretty daring, and Akeno, who somehow took it a step further, was a unique but an enjoyable experience. really the only woman who he could remember being so forward with the way they felt towards him was Hinata, and even then, it was a one-time thing, Hinata. He had no idea that she loved him. It made the blonde incredibly happy but also depressed that he couldn't confront her to try and make it work. Any women who would jump and willingly face a monster of an S-rank shinobi to save him he had no idea how to describe such a courageous and amazing woman. But what if he couldn't go back and he was stuck here? Never mind even becoming Hokage or the promise to Sakura, how would he confront Hinata or achieve world peace as he vowed to do? Yuto, Naruto, are you there? Rias waved her hands to his face, concerned with the lack of reactions that she'd been getting from the blonde for the past minute. Huh, I'm here Rias, sorry about that, was just thinking about something, what were you saying? Naruto asked politely. I was asking how you feel about joining Kuo Academy tomorrow. Rias inquired as she walked back to her desk and sat down. IWOU would like that. Naruto stuttered shakily. He knew it was a logical decision to join. He would blend in while gaining information and knowledge, but past experiences made him weary of schools in general. Rias was incredibly pleased at his answer. That's great, we're so happy that you'll join us. The crimson-haired devil then turned her attention to her servants. Now everyone, it's late and we have school tomorrow, so return home and have a good night. Have a good night Bushu, good night Akeno, Kiba, Asia and Naruto-senpai. Koneko left the room, completely forgetting about or ignoring the pervert who slumped at her coldness. Bushu, everyone, have a good night. Kiba uttered as he followed Koneko out of the room. Good night everyone, it was nice to meet you Naruto-san. Asia smiled shyly at the blonde who couldn't help but smile back. Rias Bushu, Akeno-senpai, have a good night and Tem, though I lost to you today, know that I will become stronger and I will beat you and get all the girls. Issei loudly proclaimed. Naruto looked at him dully but nodded. I hope you achieve your dreams, Hentai-kun. Issei actually looked proud of the title bestowed and Naruto couldn't help but deadpan at that observation. Definitely worse than Jiraiya-sensei. He watched as the pervert and Asia walked away together. Shifting his gaze towards Akeno, Naruto deadpanned again as he saw her creep behind the seated Rias with a creepy and perverted grin. Good night Rias-chan, Akeno purred from behind her king. Rias felt herself being pulled back into a pair of large and soft that enveloped the back of her head and the sides of her face, the alluring scent of jasmine and strawberries flooding her nostrils. Getting up calmly from her chair, Rias turned around and hugged her best friend, her own marshmallowy soft squishing against Akeno's slightly larger ones. Off to the side, Naruto looked to the side to offer them some privacy, aware that the lewd display of was in actuality two women just showering each other with sisterly love, even if it didn't look very sisterly. Have a good night Akeno-chan. Rias said genuinely, a soft and beautiful smile being directed at her sister in everything but blood, a smile Akeno fully reciprocated as she hugged back and kissed her best friend on the cheek before letting go. Sashaying her way to the blonde, Akeno took Naruto by surprise when she hugged him too, giggling lightly at the flustered look the blonde had been having a lot lately. She gasped lightly as Naruto wrapped his strong and muscular arms around her, her cheeks tinting pink as she laid her head on his upper chest. They stayed like that for a couple of seconds, the attractive pair content in each other's embrace. Feeling Naruto shift around a little bit, Akeno removed her head from his upper chest to look up at Naruto, her cheeks flushing into a darker shade of rose as the blonde gazed at her. Thank you again for healing me Akeno, I'm really grateful for that. Naruto spoke sincerely, his rough childhood making him humble to those kind enough to help him. It's no problem Naruto-kun, I couldn't just let you die you know, if I can help someone then I will. Akeno replied back earnestly, earning a small real smile from the Jinchuriki. Have a good night, Akeno uttered shyly, letting go of the blonde and walking away from the shinobi and the redhead, a smile blossoming on her face as she heard Naruto mumble a good night. You still owe me an apology Naruto-kun, for how we first met. Rias blankly stared at him, her lips twitching as she tried to stop a smile from popping up when she saw him reel back and cringe. Sorry about that Rias, I hope you're not too upset about that. Naruto apologized. Rias said nothing as she got up and walked up to Naruto, grabbing his hand and dragging him away from the clubroom much to his confusion. Where are we going Rias? Tossing a glance over her shoulder, Rias smiled coyly. You will make it up to me by sleeping with me in bed. Oh, that sounds good to me, wait what? Chapter 2. Naruto stood at the gates of Kuo Academy, his head hung low as he fought the sadness and crippling depression that gripped him the moment he laid eyes on the menacing and ominous gates of the academy. He'd been standing there for an entire minute. Might as well just end this already. Naruto thought wearily. A bit off to the side, Rias failed to suppress a smile as she stood alongside Naruto. She found amusement in his struggles to get past the gate, as amusing as it was though, it had nothing on the delightful reaction the blonde made when he found. Just thinking about it had Rias giggle as she remembered his incredibly flushed and embarrassed face. Before achieving peace or becoming Hokage, I vow that I will destroy this blasted sun, Naruto sluggishly thought, irritated with the rays of light that pierced through the covered curtains and shined right at him. Trying to get up, Naruto found his body to be heavier than usual. He looked down and suppressed a massive nosebleed as he realized what type of situation he somehow landed in. A woman slept on top of him. From the feel of her body Naruto discerned it was a very curvy woman. The crimson red hair told him it was Rias, and the shinobi gulped as he felt her bare body pressing against his. She wore no clothes. No, don't think like that, Naruto. She's probably only in her underwear, and that's something you will not think about. Thankfully Naruto didn't get an eyeful as the blanket that was supposed to cover his form was draped over her, or rather their combined body, shielding her modesty from any prying or lustful eyes. He tried his best not to think about how large her bust was or just how insanely soft it felt. Regrettably for the potentially future Hokage, being a healthy young man and coupled with the fact that the woman on top of him was very voluptuous meant Naruto couldn't suppress those indecent thoughts entirely. Fortunately or unfortunately depending on the perspective, Rias yawned and woke up. It helped the blonde with managing his thoughts while simultaneously causing him to tense up in case she grew rageful once she would become aware of the situation. His worries were quite unnecessary as she eyed the blonde and smiled brightly. "Good morning Naruto-kun, did you sleep well?" Rias asked from atop the shinobi's chest. "I did, though I have to ask, why were you sleeping on top of me? And why without a shirt or bra?" "I slept on top of you because you make a very good and warm pillow." Her lips curved into a sultry smile as she inched her face closer to his. "I don't wear anything because I like to sleep." Naked," he stuttered, mortified and embarrassed on her behalf. His reaction caused her to chuckle before she winked at him saucily. Having had her fill of teasing the blonde for the morning, Rias got up, flashing Naruto in the process with a view of heaven, too large and shapely, jiggling and forcing the blonde to close his eyes, a hint of crimson on his cheeks from the lewd but enjoyable view. Rias inwardly smiled as she got off the bed. Almost everyone she met would have been utterly happy to ogle her body if given the chance, yet this human, an admittedly powerful and a very gorgeous one, choosing to do the opposite was very refreshing and sweet. She wasn't blind to the quick admiring glances he sent her, but just as he would start to gawk, he'd look the other way and try his best not to stare even if she didn't mind it. Rias felt her respects and admiration swell up as she thought of how polite he'd been trying to be. "I'll go take a quick shower Naruto-kun, feel free to raid the fridge, okay?" "Thank you Rias for letting me stay here, and are you decent?" The shinobi sat up but still kept his eyes shut just in case he got another eyeful. "I'm wearing a shirt Naruto-kun, you can open your eyes." Rias voiced out sensuously as she headed towards the bathroom, doing her utmost best not to giggle as she looked quite forward to observing the blonde's reaction. "I'll go make us break FAF." Naruto trailed off as he opened his eyes and was promptly dazed by the sight of Rias's huge swaying from side to side as she made her way to the door leading her to the shower. His brain functions ceased to work as he gaped at a whole lot of women wrapped in one mesmerizing and curvaceous package. The Jinchuriki was unaware that the young woman whose fat butt he was currently gawking at was taking note of his flabbergasted features with utmost pleasure. Entering the bathroom and closing the door, Rias felt her lips curve into a very delighted and sultry smile as she thought of the blonde's reaction. She did wear a shirt, she just didn't say anything about wearing anything else however. Though he tried his best not to peek, even Naruto fell prey to Rias's magnificent and beautiful form. A notion that deeply pleased the stunning redhead. Naruto belonged to her, not her queen. It irritated her greatly yesterday to see Akeno and her cutie pie have such good chemistry, and that hug. Rias's beautiful turquoise orbs turned into a malicious crimson as she recalled every interaction between the duo, her wrath and bloodlust spiking as her devil instincts urged her to claim and own Naruto while annihilating all who would even think about even spending a second with him. It wasn't that she felt love at first sight when she locked her eyes on Naruto. No, she didn't believe in love at first sight even if she wished it were true. It just happened to be physical attraction at its finest that she felt for the blonde. It also just so happened that unlike most in terms of personality, like a certain Phenex devil, Naruto showed so far that he wasn't despicable or a horrible excuse of a man. No, the only personality traits that Rias could discern from the blonde was that he was kind, sweet, shy to womanly affection, brash when annoyed or insulted, confident in battle, and was trying his best to be a decent man to a voluptuous woman. Qualities that a devilish woman like herself would enjoy in a man. In simple terms, a very handsome man whose personality was like that of a chivalrous and noble warrior. Naruto, you are mine, Rias murmured alluringly. Back with the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. What Jiraiya-sensei wouldn't give to be here in this world. Naruto felt a sad grin cross his visage as he thought of his master and father figure. He'd enjoy the view, but more than that, he'd want to make sure that the world was safe and at peace. Bless his noble and pervy soul. Knowing that staying here would be counterproductive, the shinobi stood up and made his way to the kitchen, trying to decide what he and Rias should have for the morning. Though ramen was and always will be his favorite food, it didn't mean that the blonde didn't enjoy eating something other than his comfort food. In the 3-year training trip with his master, he did get stronger, yes, but the training trip was more of a learning about life and a bonding experience between godfather and godson. Saying he was all rainbows and sunshines when he learned of this revelation was not true. He did feel immensely happy to learn that he had a family, but he also felt livid to know that he had a godfather who wasn't there for the first 13 years of his life. It was perhaps a week later that he had forgiven his godfather. That training trip helped him learn a lot about what it meant to be part of a family, how to cook different kinds of food and which food was more nutritional. He learned about the different customs and cultures in the different part of the elemental nation. The shinobi wasn't as strong as he would have liked to be, but he learned a lot on how to live life and about the world he had lived in. I'll need to find a place to train. I cannot be weak ever again. Naruto thought solemnly, a quicksilver image of Hinata being stabbed by Pain's rod flashing across his mind, hardening his steel-like resolve. Opening the fridge, Naruto grabbed 3 eggs, cracked them on top of a pan and placed said pan on the stove. Thank you, Rias, for teaching me how to use a stove. Grabbing another pan for the tuna, he placed the second pan on the stove and opened the can, emptying out the contents of the container on the second pan. The sweet aroma of eggs and tuna reached the showering redhead, a healthy and delicious scent that lulled her into finishing quickly so she could devour the flavorful breakfast made by the handsome shinobi. That smells good. I didn't know you were a good cook, Naruto-kun, Rias said as she entered the kitchen and sat at the table, being treated to the sight of heavenly scrambled eggs and tasty tuna. Koneko would eat all of this, especially the fish. Rias felt her lips draw into an amused and fond smile at the thought of her cute little rook. I hope you enjoy, although I'm afraid that I'm not the best cook, unfortunately. Naruto said modestly. I'd rather eat good food made by friends instead of the best food made by strangers. Then I better make sure to cook for you often. Rias giggled at that. Breakfast for her was usually spent alone and was not very pleasant. She could definitely get used to this. Knowing that classes would start soon and being the responsible student and upperclassman that she was, Rias looped her arm with the blonde, shivering slightly at the contact made as she dragged him with her to school. No sooner did the duo pass the gate, every pair of eyes in the courtyard and in the classroom that could look outside gazed at them. The normal occurrence that usually occurred when Rias passed the gates of the academy was heart-shaped eyes appearing on the faces of the male population who couldn't resist the enthralling beauty that she possessed. The female population was a mix, with most praising the Gremory heiress with star-filled gazes, admiring her as their dreamy older sister figure to a very unhealthy degree, and the remaining treating her the exact same way the boys would. It was the standard for Rias, and the same could be said for Akeno. Every day attended for the last 3 whole years would show the exact same kind of devotion and love that Rias and Akeno would receive daily. One might even say that it was tradition, which is why when Naruto, a very handsome young man, came in arm with one of the 2 great ladies, it destroyed tradition. For the first time in 3 years, no one paid attention to the gorgeous redhead as they scrutinized the blonde intensely. Who the hell is he? Kya, he's so handsome. Oh god. What a stud. How dare he lay his hands on Rias? Isn't it obvious, he and Rias are a couple? That's so cute. No, you idiot, no one is worthy of Rias Onisama. What are you talking about? Of course he's worthy of her. No. Rias-sama. I love you. I hate him. The delighted squeals and the rage-filled screams released by the students stopped the attractive pair right in their tracks, both wide-eyed and bewildered as they witnessed chaos, pure unadulterated chaos taking a hold of the students and turning them into mindless angry savages. Though all the women in Kuo found the blonde to be extremely handsome, most even believing him to be far more attractive than the precious Prince of Kuo, the devotion and love they felt for Rias made them place her on a pedestal high above where none might reach. The only exception being Akeno, who was placed on a similar pedestal as her best friend. Which is why despite his attractiveness, most of the women were siding with the male population, fuming with fury and wanting to kill the blonde for his atrocities, breathing in the same space as her, coming in the gates together with her, being arm in arm with her. Such obscenity and outrage just simply could not be forgiven. Through the unfiltered gibberish being bellowed for all of Kuo to hear, a single voice pierced through the haze of madness. "Death to that handsome piece of shit," an average brown-haired student roared. The infamous Issei Hyodo, a member of the despised, the perverted trio. As a man with deep admiration for the female form, he despised those who were appreciated by the beautiful women, his jealousy stemming from his lack of familiarity with any attractive women who would pay him with her attention. Excluding Asia, the only beautiful women that paid any attention to him were Rias Bushu and Akeno Senpai. They showered him with their time and Issei instantly grew to love his sad and pathetic life, until they suddenly forgot he even existed. The cause of such a tragedy and heartbreak, that annoyingly handsome, if it wasn't bad enough that Naruto's face was chiseled to perfection, then it was that body of his that had Issei green with envy. How could he compete against that? The only way to win against him was to rally many allies and swarm the blonde together. Like a colony of insects following their queen, almost all the students of Kuo followed his command and ran straight for the blonde, intending to kill him right there and there. Issei's thunderous voice was heard by all the students in Kuo. Those in the classroom sprinting out of the room regardless of their teacher's disapproval, the few students who have instantly fallen in love with the new blonde were swallowed by the malicious hive. The student council, despite being vastly capable, were for once useless as there were simply too many students to stop. In the entire history of Kuo Academy, never once was there ever such a riot, yet in the 2 minutes Naruto stepped foot in the academy, he caused an uproar that had almost all the students go mindless and follow the command of the leader of the perverted trio. Naruto quickly turned to Rias and swept her off her feet. Ignoring her shriek of surprise, he bolted out of the academy, very much convinced and affirmed in his view that all schools were simply hell on earth. The masses of students saw red as they witnessed the new student pick up one of the precious, great two ladies. They all chased after him, speeding past the gates of the school and out of Kuo Academy. Kuo Academy, a prestigious and extremely accomplished school with a reputation of having their students attend top universities such as Oxford or Harvard, was for once not deserving of their reputation, as the only ones left in the school were the staff and faculty, the student council members and the occult research club members, and the few students who were in support of the blonde and redhead's relationship. Rias's apartment. Rias's lungs hurt. In all her 17 years of life, she hadn't laughed so much like she had today. It had been a few minutes since Naruto swept her off her feet and sprinted away, and just thinking about it made Rias struggle to stop giggling, a struggle that was all but not as she gave up and guffawed to her heart's content. As a heiress to the clan of Gremory and the little sister to the Satan Lucifer, Rias was forced into maintaining an image. She had to look stern and calculating. Her beautiful aquamarine orbs should contain an arctic coldness as she appraised and concluded affairs with all she associated with. It made the beautiful young women unable to enjoy the finer details of life much. Her amusement was sparingly little because of who she was related to and the expectations that were placed on her. Worse still was that her own father condemned her to an arranged marriage with Riser Phenex. An abhorrent and detestable devil who gathered and treated women as trophies. He had no consciousness and no goodness in him to share. Despite vehemently telling him that she does not want to marry him, Riser was still intent on forcing her onto this unwanted marriage. Rias simply just couldn't enjoy herself much when she was out of the comfort of her own home, where she was constantly having to present herself as a prim and proper lady, and with the stress and worry of marrying Riser Phenex. Such circumstances equaled into Rias not having a fun and carefree lifestyle. Not that it meant that Rias hated her life, Definitely not. After all, she still has her precious peerage. They are her family and she'd die for them without question, but she could do without the unwanted marriage and she could do more fun. Fun, that this handsome and beautiful human was providing her with. She knew that she and Akeno were loved by the student masses, but to react in such a manner, even she did not expect such a reaction. She could only imagine the look on Sona's face and winced at the chaos she unintentionally caused for her friend. After all, it was her who technically started the riot by looping her arm with Naruto and dragging him inside, though the fault wasn't entirely hers. She'll be having a long conversation with Issei about this soon. I'm dearly sorry, Sona. Rias almost prayed that her friend wouldn't cry over what happened. Sona took her job as student council president way too seriously, no doubt horrified by the unforeseen chaos that ensued. But on the bright side, at least she could read some manga and she could introduce Naruto to anime. Bad idea. What if he thinks that she's a weirdo? Akeno already made fun of her enough as it is by calling her a Japanese nerd. Naruto definitely does not need to know. Taking a small glance at the blonde, Rias tried and failed to stop a smile from appearing as she noticed the relieved look in his eyes. She paused, searching for the right word. Very crazy, Naruto helpfully supplied, internally glad to at least enjoy another day of freedom before officially joining the school. The redhead's smile widened as she nodded her head, in complete agreement with the blonde. And very unique. As interesting as today's morning is, I have been meaning to ask you of two things, Rias, Naruto stated while gazing into her eyes, feeling himself drown in the redhead's hypnotizing sea-green orbs. He caught the questioning and curious look in her eyes and indulged her. I wanted to ask if there is a place where I can train, preferably a large area. Could you help me with that if it's no problem for you? He inquired politely. Naruto knew that he wasn't the most respectful of people. Calling the fifth Hokage, grandma, wasn't exactly proper etiquette, and that was putting it lightly. However, the blonde realized that one of the many qualities he needed to improve upon was the way he treated people. Even if being polite had nothing to do with world peace, being polite was something expected of a Kage, and that is a goal he is still aiming for. I can help you with a place to train, but I would greatly appreciate it if you would help me in my peerage and training too. Rias stated hopefully, instantly seeing the potential in such an arrangement. She and her peerage would benefit a lot from getting trained by someone so strong. Not to mention that this agreement would help her get closer to Naruto, much closer. I'd be more than happy to help all of you. Naruto replied back earnestly, evoking a small grateful smile from the heiress. The second question I wanted to ask is if you can help me find a house for me to stay in. You've done so much for me already and I can't keep relying on your kindness and stay in your home. I meant to ask earlier this morning. Naruto's cheeks tinted pink as he recalled the lewdness of today's events before leaving for school, but I kinda got distracted. His blush darkened at the sight of Rias smirking teasingly. This girl had no shame. Naruto-kun, I want you to stay with me here. It can get very lonely when nobody is around. It gets to the point where Akeno-chan sleeps here too sometimes cause I can't stand just how isolated it can be. You staying here means that I won't be alone when I'm home. It means that I have someone other than Akeno to cuddle with at night. Rias trailed off, giggling at how Naruto's face resembled the color of her hair. It also means that I get to know my new friend better. Rias finished, her tone a mix of sultry teasing and deadly serious. But don't you want some privacy? Even if you don't, aren't you the least bit uncomfortable that you're housing a stranger? You and I don't know each other well. I thought about that and I have nothing to worry about. If you wanted to kill or kidnap me, you could have easily done it when we were at the forest yesterday with my peerage. We stood no chance against you, yet nothing happened to us. Inhaling a deep breath, Rias continued. Yes, we don't know each other too well, but I know enough to know that you wouldn't harm us intentionally. She smiled at the shinobi, her tone genuine and filled with nothing but honesty. As for privacy, just don't come inside my room unless I invite you and that's it. She'd die from embarrassment if Naruto or anyone else saw the layouts of her room. Manga books and anime posters found everywhere, action figures and anime sculptures on her study desk. She will not allow anyone passage to her safe haven. Thank you, Rias, thank you so much. I suppose one of the many ways I could pull my weight is by cooking breakfast and dinner every day. Naruto jokingly said, internally touched by this woman's kindness, to offer him a place to live for free just like that. He hadn't met many who were this kind and nice to him. You're very welcome. The cooking is also another reason as to why I want you to stay, Naruto-kun. The shinobi failed to suppress a grin at that. Opening his mouth to reply back, he got cut off before he could utter a word as Akeno came barging in, heading straight for the blonde and glomping him much to his surprise and the redhead's annoyance. "Oh cutie pie, I'm so glad you are okay. I was so worried when I saw you get chased by those mindless savages. Just say the word and I'll fry them to a crisp." Akeno gushed coyly. The Thunder Priestess inwardly laughed at the fuming look sent by her best friend, wrapping her arms tight around the shinobi's back and discreetly sticking her tongue out to her king. Naruto shifted a bit uncomfortably as he felt Akeno pushed against him. He didn't let that deter him as he addressed the voluptuous and kind but teasing women who healed him. "I'm okay, Akeno, don't worry about me, but thank you for caring." Naruto spoke thankfully, a small upturn of his lips making the usually seductive and beautiful queen of Rias Gremory flush pink as he smiled at her. Pouting lightly, Akeno shifted her arms around to place them on his neck, leaning back slightly so she could get a better view of his heart-melting visage. "Cutie pie, please call me Akeno-chan, say it with me, Akeno-chan," she drawled out enticingly. The shinobi's eyes wandered to her plump and inviting lips, her soft and melodious voice tickling his ears, and the thought of locking his own lips with Akeno's glossy pink ones sent a heat to his body that he struggled to quell. "Okay, Akeno-chan," he mumbled softly. "Get your head checked, you dumb blonde, you can't just kiss someone you met yesterday." Naruto raged at himself. The hell happened to him? It was like he'd been possessed by Jiraiya-sensei. "Akeno, is there any reason you have come here? Or are you just here to annoy me?" Rias asked, thoroughly annoyed with her buxom queen being so grabby and touchy with Naruto. Didn't Akeno understand that Naruto was strong and could protect himself? Didn't Akeno understand that her touches made him uncomfortable? And didn't Naruto understand that he does not have to call her queen Akeno-chan? Era, why are you so mad, Rias-chan? Yes, I didn't acknowledge you until now, but that's because I had to make sure that my cutie pie is okay. Uff. Akeno giggled that giggle, the dreamy Oni-sama giggle that irritated the hell out of the clan heiress. "I'm not mad, Akeno, but surely there is a reason for coming here apart from checking to see if Naruto-kun, the guy who beat us yesterday, is okay," Rias stated sarcastically. Letting go of the shinobi, Akeno turned her attention to the greedy clan heiress. "If you must know, I have come for quite a few reasons. First is because everyone is worried about you." Rias felt guilt churn in her stomach at the thought of her cute servants needlessly stressing about her. "Second is to tell you that Sona has dismissed everyone from school today and will hold an assembly tomorrow for all the students of Kuo Academy, no doubt about today's entertaining events." Biting her lips to stifle the laugh that wanted to break free, Akeno successfully suppressed the laugh but could not hide the amusement and mirth in her eyes. "The third reason is because I wanted to spend time with cutie pie here," she said, gesturing to the blushing blonde. Any guilt Rias felt regarding her cute servants vanished as she glared at her queen. Turning to the blonde who reeled back when her glare made contact with him, he cringed when he noticed the ominous and unfriendly crimson instead of the beautiful and kind bluish emerald spheres that he grew accustomed to seeing in these 2 days. "You wanted me to show you a place to train, right? Follow me, Naruto-kun. As for you," whirling her attention to her best friend, her signature power of destruction shrouding her shapely form. She scowled at her queen who matched her energy output as Akeno too was encased by yellow lightning. "It's time that I discipline you as your king." The underworld, one of the many Gremory clans land. "You tomato whore. Thunder bitch." Naruto's sweat dropped at the basic yet sort of accurate insults thrown. The only reason he didn't interfere in the ongoing fight between the two was because he could tell that the two of them needed to let out some steam. They were like him and Sasuke before Orochimaru gave Sasuke the hickey. Unlike him and Sasuke though, these two were much closer if the affection they showed to each other before leaving the clubroom yesterday was any indication. Fortunately enough, the two great ladies seemed to have finally run out of gas if the heavy breathing and the sweat-drenched faces was anything to go by. Sun shining between the two women, both of them stopped charging their attack. As weak as it might have been, neither wanted to strike the blonde with their energy. "Naruto-kun, get out of there, I need to teach Akeno some respect and manners." Even talking seemed to be a difficult course of action for the redhead, her lungs desperately burning for oxygen. "Teach me manners and respect." Big talk from a spoiled brat with smaller tits. Having been best friends since childhood, Akeno knew which words annoyed the hell out of Rias and which made her feel rageful. Right now she did both. What did you say, you fuck? Enough, Naruto bellowed, startling both girls and causing them to finally stop fighting. Gazing at Rias, who flinched at the intensity of his glare, he softened his gaze. Rias, I know you're angry, but fighting with your friends is never enjoyable unless it's a fight to relax or to find out who's stronger. Please don't get too angry. The heiress pouted and looked to the side. It might have looked as though she opposed his opinion, but mentally the heiress did agree with Naruto. Didn't mean that Akeno doesn't deserve a spanking with her pod-coated hand. Power of destruction equals pod. Moving his attention to Akeno, who unconsciously stood up straight, he tried his best to quell the mirth in his eyes as he addressed her. Akeno-chan, there is nothing wrong with annoying your friends, but right now you and her are very tired. Please rest and don't annoy her. Walking to the Thunder Priestess, he grabbed her hand, startling her in the process, and dragged her to Rias, who instantly understood his intentions and rolled her eyes. Shoving the ravenet lightly to Rias, both girls stared at one another blankly. Growing annoyed with the silence, Akeno sighed in mock annoyance and opened her arms in a hug-me gesture. Needing no further encouragement, Rias moved and hugged Akeno tightly. Placing her mouth an inch away from Akeno's ear, she smirked when she felt her queen shiver from the proximity. You're a meanie, Akeno-chan. Pulling back slightly from the hug so Rias could study her features, Akeno presented a very lewd smile that abruptly had Rias blushing and shying away from her queen's horny stare. I'm only a meanie for you, sweetie. She purred erotically. Sorry for ruining the moment, but I'm going to train. Do either of you want to join me? Naruto asked sheepishly, an awkward grin on his face as the moment between the two curvy women quickly reminded him of a specific scene in his master's Ika Ika series, Love in the Family. Just thinking about those days where he was forced into proofreading all the pervy books made by his godfather had him flustered. No questions behind it that Jiraiya-sensei would find inspiration from this moment. Train? You want us to train right now? When we're so tired? Rias exclaimed, dumbfounded. Surely he couldn't be serious. Right now she and Akeno were exhausted, smelly and drenched in sweat. Ew. She needed to desperately take a shower. Cutie pie, we'll train, but not today. Us girls need to look and smell good, and right now we aren't either. Akeno unknowingly voiced out her king's thoughts. It's alright, but how will I get back if I want to stay here? With this, Naruto-kun, Rias handed him a fancy-looking paper. This is a flyer, Naruto-kun. It's distributed to humans with strong desires so they can summon us devils, and we form contracts with them. It's one of the ways to progress from a low-class devil to a high-class devil. This is my personal flyer. Once you're done training, just hold on to it and desire me to come. Seriously. I just hold on to this paper and I just have to wish for you to come and you'll be here. Naruto asked incredulously, looking at the paper and seeing nothing special, just a small red circle with small decorations around. Yup, all it really does is let you summon me when you're done training. The amusement and mirth in her eyes clear for the skeptical blonde to see. He nodded slowly, skeptical as he was. He believed her. She hadn't given him a reason to doubt her. Rias-chan, you and I can ogle cutie pie later. Right now we need to take a hot soapy shower. Grabbing her king by the arm, ignoring the look of disapproval on her face, Akeno looked at the shinobi and blew him a kiss. See you later, Naruto-kun. Being inside a magic circle and teleporting somewhere else was a strange experience. Seeing it happen but not being inside was also weird but kinda cool. Truly surveying the area now that he wasn't paying attention to the two devils, Naruto was slack-jawed at the enormity of this place. The clearing spread out for miles upon miles, the size of this training ground being 1/4 the size of Konoha. Not exactly what the Jinchuriki had in mind, but he was certainly not complaining. For a training ground, this is really, really impressive, huh? At least I can take full advantage of this place and really train. Naruto murmured, bringing his hands in the cross formation and creating 1,000 clones. Alright, listen up all of you, we have much that needs improvement. Separate yourself into 5 groups of 200, once you are all grouped, each of you will work either separately or with another group. Group 1 and 2, you both will work on chakra control. We need to stop relying on clones to help form Rasengan for us. Group 3 will practice the basics of the strong fist that Guy Sensei showed us. Do not stop practicing until you have mastered the form and movement of the strong fist. Group 4, you all are gonna work on recreating Nagato's almighty push. Shinra Tensai, with Wind Chakra, keep a huge distance between y'all so as to not kill the other clone or clones accidentally. Group 5, you guys will be split into two, the first half will be on standby, ready to replace any clone from any group who dispelled while training. The second half is going to train alongside the Taijutsu group or group 3 in the strong fist while I train my body then meditate. Once I'm done with that, the second half is going to be sparring with me. Now enough wasting time. Let's get stronger. Time skip. 11 hours. 11 hours, 11 hours of pure torture. What he just put himself through for training would make even the youthful bushy-brow duos cringe in horror and run away. Each minute seemed to equal 10 minutes, an hour seemed to equal 3 hours. To the blonde who trained from 9 in the morning to 8 in the late evening, he felt like it had been 2 days. It was go hard or go home. He didn't exactly enjoy wheezing for breath as he exercised, but he needed to be strong, and that meant pushing till he reached his limit and beyond. His chakra control still wasn't at the level he wanted it to be, but at least it happens to be much better compared to pre-workout chakra control. The strong fist can confidently say that the basics was mastered. Now all he had to do was train and work on the advanced forms of said taijutsu style found in the scroll that Gai-sensei gifted him with a while back. The scroll in question being sealed on his wrist. The almighty push. It would take a while before he could make any gateway with that technique. The shinobi was determined to have that jutsu in his arsenal. Having been on the receiving end of that technique more times than he liked, he could see just how useful and valuable it really was. The idea he had in mind was simply expelling wind chakra from his body either in the direction he was facing or in a spherical direction that targeted everyone with a powerful force of shockwave that could move even a mountain back. Like the original, almighty push, the more chakra expelled, the stronger the wind blast that would catapult his enemies or their attacks as far away from him as the chakra output would allow. Unfortunately, such a jutsu wouldn't be a part of his arsenal anytime soon. Walking to the nearest tree, the Jinchuriki sat down and laid his back on the trunk. Exhausted and beat from all the training he accomplished for today, he didn't even have enough chakra to try summoning jutsu. It did however make the blonde wonder about Konohagakure and everyone. Was his mother figure Tsunade in good health? How about Uruka-sensei and the ramen stand owners? Konohamaru. His former classmates. What about everyone else? Without Sage Mode, Naruto wasn't a good censor, but even he could tell that everyone really did come back from the dead. Grateful as he was to Nagato, anxiety still gripped the blonde shinobi. How would everyone continue living when their home and everything else was in shambles? Wouldn't the other villages think they are weak for falling against one man? Leader of the Akatsuki or not, especially when the one who beat Pain was not present anymore. And what about Hinata? Why would someone as weak as you try to resist? Why would you fight me, when you know that you'll only die? Those words, uttered by the leader of S-rank criminals, formed into a question that resonated with the Jinchuriki. Why would Hinata jump in to save him? What did he do to inspire her? And did she really love him? If so, was he really deserving of that love, when that love got her killed? Naruto didn't know the answer to any of his own mental questions, but he did know one thing: the answer to all that could be answered only by confronting Hinata Hyuga. And only God knows when he'd return back home. Above everyone else, there was no other individual who Rias respected more than her mother, her doting mother who would always tuck her in bed once she felt sleepy as a child, would always comb and brush her hair when it was frizzly and messy. She remembered how she once scraped her knee and her mother would not let her out of her sight for 2 full weeks. When questioned as to why she was worrying so much, one Rias Gremory gave a response that made Rias feel like the most precious girl in the world. "You're my heart, Rias. If anything were to happen to you, then I can no longer exist." It hurt so much that her loving mother would agree with her father that an arranged marriage between her and that barbarous oaf was beneficial for her future. It hurt so much that she even stopped communicating with her altogether. Having waited for Naruto for so long, Rias once recalled a lesson that her mother taught her before she cut off contact with her parents. Imagine you're holding something light like paper, and you're holding it with your arms stretched out. It may not feel heavy, and it is something insignificant to hold onto, but Rias, the longer you hold something, even if it's small and unimportant, the more burdening it would be. Problems and feelings are the same way. Let's say you had a small, tiny problem that you didn't consider to be of importance. The longer it stays there, the bigger the problem will become before it feels very suffocating for you. It made plenty sense what her mother told her. Leaving Naruto in the training ground with her flyer didn't seem like an issue, but as the hours rolled by, the more she began to stress and worry about him. Why was he taking so long? Was he alright? Did someone or something attack him? What happened to him? Each inquiry made only seemed to heighten the tension she felt. There was simply no way that he'd been training for 11 hours. I'll give him 10 more minutes, and if he doesn't summon me, I'll go to the underworld and find out what's going. A relieved smile split her face, tension fading away from her shoulder as she felt Naruto call out to her. She blushed a little when she registered his desires to see her. Well, if he wants to see, who am I to deny him? She thought coyly, her heart slightly racing at the prospect of seeing him. Forming a magic circle that teleported her right to him, the moment she saw the blonde, Rias acted on her first urge and enveloped him in a tight hug, completely missing the grief that was present in the shinobi's eyes before he schooled himself. Why didn't you call me till now, Naruto-kun? I was so worried about you. Rias blabbered unintentionally, flushing pink when she realized she revealed the extent of her worries to her crush. Sorry for worrying you, Rias, I just finished recently. Her reaction was a bit surprising to the Jinchuriki. It was a first that someone worried about him to this extent. It was really nice and something he could get used to. Well, I know how you can make it up to me. What can I do so you'd forgive me? Naruto smiled softly as he gazed at Rias, his eyes unintentionally darting to her lips before he forced it back up. Call me Rias-chan, that's all you need to do from now on. Naruto abruptly laughed, his chuckles confusing and flustering the young women who pouted at his reaction. Why'd you laugh, Naruto-kun? It's not funny. Sorry, Rias-chan, but I honestly thought that you'd want me to cook when we get back or to train your peerage or something. I didn't think it was something simple like adding chan to your name. Naruto stated honestly. Jerk, she mumbled with a light smile, letting go of the blonde and facing away from him. Conjuring her power and forming another teleportation spell, the blonde and redhead duo left the underworld and arrived back in Rias's residence in Kuo. Were you really training the entire time? Rias asked curiously. To train for that long was just simply insane. It would however explain how he's so strong for a 16-year-old. I won't train you and everyone else that hard though, unless that is what you'd like. Naruto couldn't really see them surviving such training. Hell, he was super fatigued and he was much stronger than everyone else. No offense intended towards Rias and her peerage. Definitely not, though. Do you have anything in mind for what we should train in? Also, how would you be able to help us in magic spells? Or is that not part of the program? Let's continue talking in the kitchen. I'll make us some ramen. It's really good. Praise the ramen god for creating such a wonder. Is ramen your favorite food? Of course it is, it's the food of the gods. Naruto proclaimed passionately, his earlier fatigue and exhaustion fading away as he devotedly worshipped his comfort food. Then I hope you don't disappoint with the ramen. Rias teased him. Naruto scoffed. Ramen never disappoints. Part 1 ends here, but destiny has only just begun. Naruto's presence has already started changing the Gremory household, and Riser Phenex won't stay silent for long. If you enjoyed this part, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fox Fanfiction. Comment, Part 2 inches if you want to see Naruto face the devil world head on.